Dasher, followed by Alan Mastrangelo.
Good morning, Coach. I know the other day when we spoke to you, when asked about where Anthony might go, you said you hope that his head coach and the staff would be somebody who would be able to nurture him through the process. Now that you know it's Minnesota, what do you think about Coach Saunders and his staff as far as that is concerned?
My fault, Anthony. I was muted. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I feel great about it. I think it worked out remarkably well because Ryan is progressive. He's aggressive. He's a relationship builder. I've known Ryan for a long time. I coached against him when he played at Minnesota. Certainly, I've gotten to know him over the years. I have tremendous respect for him. I know in the initial meeting that Anthony had with Ryan that he was excited about that, going back to when they first met, I believe, in Atlanta. So Ryan is a hands-on guy. I mean, and I think that's exactly what he needs. He needs somebody that is going to be invested in the relationship a lot more than just touch and go, right? And what happens so many times is you see a player, you give them a couple of things, you move on your way. Anthony needs more than that. And I think that staff, I know Coach Gates, I think he's going to do a fantastic job. Scott Layden I talked to during this process. Joe Branch, I've known for a while and actually texted with Joe last night. I think those kind of people will be outstanding for him. Ryan and I have exchanged text messages and phone messages, and then hopefully I'll talk to him at some point here later today. But I think it worked out great for having somebody that will have a lot of energy, a lot of empathy, and somebody that Anthony will truly connect with.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Coach, have you had a chance to talk to Anthony? And what would your advice be to him just as a first-year NBA, rookie?
Well, we did. We spoke last night. Shortly, right after the draft, right after he was picked, in the midst of some of the media. And that's such a night for him and his family that we'd had a quick text when he first got picked, and then we had a chance to visit. My advice for him would be the same thing for the fans of Minnesota. You've got to be patient. He's a very aggressive, get after it, being in the gym guy who wants success right now. And I think that's a good thing. But at the same time, there's going to be a huge learning curve in the sense that he has not competed in a basketball game in over 8 months. And he didn't have, obviously all the rookies are in the same boat, but he didn't have a summer of summer league. He didn't have a summer to train with the coaches. He hasn't had a fall of being at the workouts from September 1st on. That in any normal year, that's what they would be getting. So it's going to take a little bit of time. And I think, though, his drive, his determination, his willingness to work, his ability to pick things up, those are all going to be big things. But the bottom line, and this is what I said to him and that I would say to him every time, keep remembering what kind of great teammate you are and how important it is for you as a teammate to see your teammates have success and keep working with that. Do everything you can do every day to make your teammates better. And I think when you have that kind of mindset, you can't help but succeed. And I think that's what's going to be most important for him throughout the rookie year, because there will be ups and downs, no doubt about it. But to keep learning, keep progressing, but going every day saying, how can I make sure my teammates have a really good practice, and how can I make sure that my teammates have a really good game? And when you have that mindset, it's amazing how it comes back to you and you have your own personal successes.
We'll next go up to Minneapolis for Jace Frederick with the Pioneer Press, followed by Dave Campbell with the Associated Press.
Hey, Tom, thanks for doing this.
Sure.
Some people have questioned, Anthony, does he love basketball? Is he committed? But you've described him as the team's best screener by the end of the year, a great teammate, a great worker. That sounds like somebody who's really committed to the game and loves the game. Has that been really your entire experience with him?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think the whole thing and the love of basketball, does he love sitting there watching it for 3-4 hours at a time? Probably not. And I think you'd be surprised how few kids really do. Now, playing it for 3 or 4 hours at a time, that is for sure, right? So I'd much rather have a guy that wants to be in the gym working. And he learned a lot about watching film. I saw this in some of his comments last night. and that he learned about the value of film. And remember now, these people that are this age, they're growing up constantly on Insta stories, YouTube, quick hit videos, right? They're not sitting there for hour upon hour watching game after game. They're watching snippets. They're watching bites. I have kids. I mean, it's the same way. And so the bottom line is, if he didn't have the desire to be in the gym and he didn't have the work capacity that he has, I'd be concerned. That's not him at all. I mean, he is a worker. He's a guy that needs to be in the gym. He just doesn't want to be in the gym. He needs to be in the gym. In 20 years as a head coach, I've never had a guy that spent more time after games in the gym than he did. Now, I've had guys spend a lot of time in the gym. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm talking about after games, at home games, going out there after everything was done. Maybe the media stuff was done. Everything's done. He might have 10, 15 people waiting on him, right? But he continued. If he was set on working, he works. And I think that's the big thing you're going to get with him. There's a commitment to getting better. And I think he'll do the same in Minnesota.
Hey, Tom, thanks for doing this. Just building off that a little bit, Anthony sort of came across last night as pretty self-aware just about, some criticism that he's heard, but how the Timberwolves really presented to him a vision of what he can become. Knowing that he's been through a lot in his life, you only had him one season, but he's 19 years old. What did you see just from his kind of awareness about his career and sort of his place and what it'll take to sort of be the best he can be?
Well, first off, he's extremely bright. He's extremely bright. He's worldly. You're going to see that he's very good in conversations when you guys get him. And if you get him in one-on-one situations and things of that nature, he's easy to talk to, right? For somebody that was 18, he'll surprise you. And now can he give sound bites and can he do interviews? Absolutely. But there's a deep process to him, and he's been through a lot in his life. And as he builds up trust and as he builds up belief, that comes out. And so early on in his time here, probably about 3 weeks into his time at Georgia, we had a long conversation because we knew it was going to be a process for him to learn the amount of work that goes into this, even in the summertime, the working with other guys. Like, there's nowhere to rest. Like, when you're on the court or you're in the weight room, you're working. And the one thing I said to him, and I think it stayed true through this whole thing, because it was different for me. I'd had one guy that had really come in predestined in the sense of Cody Zeller. The rest of the guys that I'd had, guys like Dwayne Wade, Victor Oladipo, Wesley Matthews, OG Anunoby, all those kind of guys, they were not predestined to be one of the top picks in the draft per se. And as I said to him, there will be more people trying to find reasons why you shouldn't be number one and why you're not worthy of being number one than there will be people trying to find reasons that you are, just because of the way you're coming in, just because of the accolades that he's coming in with. It's much easier to go after something that's at the top of the ladder than it is the people that are climbing their way up. I said, you've got to be a climber. Every day you've got to continue to work and understand that you've got to hold yourself to a really, really high standard, because people will be looking to pick it apart, not just build it up. I said, but in here, we're going to build it up every day. We're going to work together. And I said, that means that there'll be a lot of tough days that you've got to get through, that you've got to overcome. And for an 18-year-old that should have been a senior in high school and had never been through anything like that, I think he handled it extremely well. And he became an even better teammate than what I could have imagined, considering all those accolades. He said this last night too. You know, he really learned to move without the basketball. He never had to move without the basketball. You know, he lived slot to slot and top of the key. And then he could get to the rim from there. I mean, he could get anything he wanted done on the basketball court during his high school days. And that just wasn't going to be the case anymore. And it's certainly not going to be the case now in the NBA. So that level of awareness, that level of aptitude of looking at things, being able to learn, wanting to learn, all that is there. And he just needs people that are going to invest that time into him constantly. Because the last time he's been in a film session, was March 12th. And then midway through, we found out we weren't playing anymore. So I know obviously he's watched film, but I'm talking about in a team setting. So as long as that happens and that time is spent with him, you're going to see him continue to grow and flourish and build onto that level of intelligence and build onto that awareness.
We'll next go to Chip Towers, followed by Jacob Roth with Channel 46 in Atlanta.
I just wonder if you can quantify what this means for Georgia basketball in terms of recruiting and stuff. And will you continue to pursue players like Ant-Man that are sort of predestined?
Well, absolutely. I think you have to. I think anybody that says they wouldn't is not telling the truth. I mean, you've got to try to make your team better on the floor, in the classroom, in the meetings every day. Well, you've got to keep trying to do it in recruiting as well. And I think it means a ton. I mean, when you really look at it and say that the last time the highest pick was Dominique Wilkins at number 3, 38 years ago. And that's just amazing. And to never had a number 1 pick. And I think it says a lot. I think it's going to say even more in the sense that if your dreams are real, if your agenda is real, okay, and this is what you really want, and you want to come in and you want to help build a place up, that it can happen here. And sometimes there's different agendas in recruiting. There's different things people want. But at the end of the day, if you want to get better, and if you want to be developed, and if you want a chance to play in a great university in front of a great fan base, it's here. And there's no one that can ever say again that your greatest dream couldn't be realized at Georgia when it comes to being able to go on to the next level. And I feel really good about that. And we will continue to pursue in the state. I'm having a couple great conversations already this morning with kids in the state. Maybe, hopefully they weren't interrupting their Zoom classroom sessions too much, but we still had those conversations, and last night, and it's all right here. And you just have to be willing to put in the time. And we've got to get enough guys that can make each other better on a continual basis, so we can build some consistency into the program.
Hey, Coach. So as one of those kind of predestined guys, you know, Anthony's obviously been the guy pretty much his whole basketball career. And I know obviously you shared the ball a lot last year with him at UGA. But he said last night he doesn't really feel a lot of pressure playing with 2 All-Stars. So what do you think about his game? He'll be able to kind of unlock playing alongside, you know, Karl Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell.
Well, I think also when you add Ricky Rubio and the energy that he plays with and the passing ability, Ricky is the epitome of the old quote, "The ball finds energy." And I'm a huge, my son's favorite player, non-dad coach player, has always been Ricky Rubio. So we've followed him close for a long, long time. And I just love the way he moves the ball. I love his work ethic. I think that was one of the best moves of the entire night that anybody in the NBA made. So to me, I think that helps. I think Anthony will continue to learn what it means to move without the basketball. As we've said, he became our best screener at the end of the year because he loved to see his teammates get free. And I don't know how much screening, you know, Ryan will do in the high post or things like that. But Anthony is a teammate. I mean, he's a teammate. And there's not really a, well, I'll be a teammate in this, I won't be a teammate in that. He's not really like that. You know, this kid is a teammate. He's got an infectious personality. People want to be around him. Does he have to grow up? Absolutely. Does he have to work through mistakes? Absolutely. Does he have a lot to learn? No question about it. But he's 19 with a great heart, tremendous empathy, and loves being a teammate. So to me, those kind of things are really going to work well. And if Karl will take him under his wing, and if D'Angelo, who I've known for a long, long time, will take him under his wing with some of the other guys that are in his life that he has the capacity now to have in the NBA, it's going to work. But he needs to learn, like any 19-year-old would need to learn, what it truly means to be a professional. Not just be a pro basketball player, but what it means to be a professional. And that's the greatest hope that I have when it comes to the mentoring phase of what he gets from his teammates, because that's what he needs. And if that happens over the next couple of years, look out, you know, because there's so much there. He just needs to learn now what that game and what that life is all about.
We'll next go back to Minneapolis for Darren Wolfson with KSTP TV, followed by John Krasinski with The Athletic.
Tom, I appreciate you doing this as we
Sure.
up here in the Twin Cities get to know Anthony in the coming months and years. What will surprise us as we get to learn about Anthony? What will surprise us about Anthony?
What will surprise you? That, I think once people get to know him, I've said this, so it's no surprise to me, but I mean, just what kind of personality that he has, how good he is with people. He's reserved in a way. He's not the class clown. He's not trying to be the life of the party. He's funny naturally. He has a lot of fun. But I think as his confidence grows as a player, I think you won't be surprised when you see him doing things that are not for the camera. Okay. You know, as well as I do in the professional level, a lot of the good things that happen are followed by a camera crew, or they're followed by somebody monitoring it and take it and so they can put it on social media. I've seen Anthony do things. I've seen Anthony be with people because it's natural to him that no camera is involved in. And one of the great things about him, and we had numerous NBA people, not only at the games last year, but at practice. So it was nothing to have 2, maybe 3 GMs at a practice, have 8, 9, 10 different teams at a practice. I can't name one day that ever faced him. There was not one day. Now, there were days that we had to get him better or we had to work through things. I'm not saying that. But when it comes to I ever had to worry about him trying to put on a show for an NBA GM or an NBA team, that never happened. He's very, very confident in who he is. So I say that to say this, when he wants to help people, he's got a very, very good heart. And I think people will have an answer to your question over the next few years. You'll hear about stories about, well, Anthony did this, or Anthony said that, or Anthony did this for this family, or Anthony did this at this restaurant. He just got to grow into that. And he's got to be reminded of it. That's who he is. He's a great teammate with a great heart, and it's got to come out all the time.
Hey, Tom, building off that just a little bit, he spent a lot of time, most of his life in Atlanta, in the Georgia area. How do you see him acclimating to a new city, to kind of just a different lifestyle? We've seen some prospects kind of have difficulties making that adjustment. Others are seamless. How do you see him kind of just changing the environment around him that way?
Well, that'll be an adjustment. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I lived in the Midwest all my life. And then when we left Indiana, we moved to Florida, and then a year later took the Georgia job. And I'm in my 50s, right? I'm 54. It's an adjustment. So there's no question that will be that way for him. But as long as, my recommendation to him would be to live as close to the facility as he can be, because he's going to spend time in the gym. He's going to spend time with his video games. He's a guy, he's very resourceful in that way. I think he'll be fine with that. I think he'll be fine. I think now the way the season is going to play out, there's not going to be a lot of time to get acclimated other than to basketball, with the season starting as quick as it's going to start. And I think that's a really good thing for him in the sense of right now, this is what my job is. This is what I've got to do. And then the travel starts and all those types of things. And I think it'll be really good for him as he gets to know another part of the country. And then really diving into what Minnesota is all about and getting to know the city and all those type of things. There'll be time for that, but right now it's much more important that he dive in to understand, man, this season's here quicker than I thought it would be, and I've got to be ready.
We'll next go to Mike Griffith, followed by Mark Bradley for a question or an astute observation.
So Dwayne Wade was talking last night about spending a couple hours watching film with you last season at some point, looking at, I guess he looked at Ant-Man. And then also he talked about Anthony comparing himself to Dwayne, and Dwayne was flattered and pleased with that. But obviously you coached both guys. I mean, it's the most obvious question out there, comparing Anthony to Dwayne Wade. And then if you could just elaborate more on your time with Wade, breaking down film in Athens, whenever that was he was talking about.
I think with Dwayne, Dwayne is a kind person. Dwayne's going in the Hall of Fame on the first ballot, probably unanimous, right? And so I think anytime that's just Dwayne being Dwayne. But Dwayne has had a special interest in Anthony for some time. There's no doubt about it, because his son Zaire has known him for some time. They play in the Pangos camp together out in California or different AAU events. So Dwayne has been acclimated to that scene because of his son, because of Zaire. So he was well aware. And then obviously when he comes with me, he's even that much more aware. But I don't think the comparisons are even remotely fair to either one of them. And so like because they both come up different ways. I mean, Dwayne had very few scholarship offers. Anthony was predestined from, ninth grade, 10th grade on. So it's just a completely different deal. But when it comes to the level of care that they have for people, when it comes to what kind of teammates they are, when it comes to what kind of work ethic that they have, when it comes to not taking themselves too serious on the basketball floor and engaging themselves to teammates. Now, taking themselves serious as basketball players, but not taking themselves too serious as star players when it comes to their teammates, which is by far the most important thing. And then being coachable, right? Then being coachable. We had a lot of tough days with Dwayne Wade, too. Just nobody saw him because nobody really knew about him, especially that first year that he sat out. There were a lot of tough days. But those are the days that shaped him. And we had him for 3 years. So it's just different. But because of Dwayne's interest level in me and in us and in Anthony and in the business side of it, because Dwayne obviously has got a huge part of where he's at with shoes and is going to be able to do whatever he wants in the NBA, whether it's ownership, management, whatever he wants to do. There's a special interest. So anytime that he could pick things up on television or anytime that he could pick things up watching game tape, he would point that out. And he's done it with other guys. And I think that's one of the beauties of what we have, in our relationships. And a lot of schools are always talking about, well, pro this and pro that, and I've got this guy and I've got that guy. Well, that's great. But if they're not really helping you make your team better, then it becomes, it's not as great. And Dwayne has been the proponent from the beginning. And this has been so big for us, whether we were at Marquette, whether we were at Indiana, or now at Georgia. Dwayne is the leader of the family. When you look at all the former players that have gone on, I can't name very many that he didn't reach out to on his own because he knew that we were all connected. Even though he never went to Indiana, he never went to Georgia, he knew we were all connected. And I would put Magic Johnson's like that at Michigan State. Okay. And it didn't matter who the coach was, whether it was Judd Heathcote or Tom Izzo, he was going to dive into those relationships. We had a couple guys like that at Indiana, but not to the extent of what Dwayne Wade has done with me on that, of really, really caring about how those guys' futures go. And then being able to help be a sounding board for them in the NBA. And that's what it was. And I think Dwayne will continue to do that as long as he can. And I think that's great.
And then I guess just a quick follow-up, Coach. Obviously, Georgia had some tough losses last year. Can you just talk about Anthony's resiliency? Because you guys were able to bounce back from some of your worst losses with some of your best wins, beating teams like Tennessee and Auburn by double digits. How much of that was Anthony, and how well does that play when he goes to a franchise like the Timberwolves that had such a poor record last year?
Well, Scott Layden and I talked about that at length. And because the difference between Anthony and some other guys near the top of the board is Anthony went through, and he could have made the other choices too, right? He could have gone to Europe. He could have sat it out, all those types of things. No, this guy not only stayed home, but he went through it, right? He went through it. He had to bounce back from tough days. He had to bounce back from tough games. He had to come and bring it day after day. And then he had to be, when there were good games, he had to turn around. No, we're not taking tomorrow off. We're not just walking through for 20 minutes, all right, and hanging out and getting a massage. No, we're going to practice. So like he's been through the rigors of it, and at the age of 18. And I think that really helps him because obviously the NBA season is going to be longer and there's going to be way more games, but he's not going to have to walk in and not have any idea how to practice hard after a game or have any idea how to put back to back practices together. He's not going to, that's there for him. Right. And then it's up to the coaching staff to find the best way to utilize that, to get the most out of him. And Ryan and I'll talk about that when we visit. But the bottom line is he loves the game. He loves to get better. He learned a lot about what it takes to be a worker on a team and not just a guy that works really hard on his own. and how to bring the most out of his teammates. And that's what I'm proud of him for, because it was tough. I mean, there weren't as many lanes. We shot 28% from three in the league. We shot 30% overall, and we missed some open threes. I mean, he had to do a lot of different things, scoring wise, driving wise. I think this will go back to Darren's question about what will people be surprised on. I think the basketball part, they'll be surprised on is how good a passer that he is. And when they see that level, you know, over the next few years, and when they see where that happens. And as long as everybody remembers that it's a marathon and not a sprint here with a kid like this that's 19 and going to play the entire season at 19, I think it'll all be fine. But he's resilient in the fact that he learned day after day, we weren't backing down, we weren't backing off, and this is what it's going to take for you to be successful. And he responded to that. He embraced it.
I'm sorry, this may be an inappropriate question, Tom, Mike, because it's not necessarily about Anthony. In fact, it's not about Anthony. But am I allowed to ask a coach about you're getting close to going now, but the COVID numbers are spiking upward again. How confident are you that there's going to be a basketball season? And if so, what do you think it's going to look like?
Well, that's a good question. I think what this time period is, you have to be extremely flexible and versatile as a coach and be able to adjust, obviously, right? But I think in this day and age now, it's taught even more of that. And if you know, we've had numerous COVID cases already on our team and our staff going back to the summertime. And so, and now we're testing 3 times a week. You know, now when I get that message in the morning, okay, everything was negative. You know, you breathe, I don't want to say you breathe a sigh of relief, but it's not a lot different right now if you get the message that so-and-so is positive, because you just have to be able to adjust. And I think in answer to your question, I think we have to be flexible. Am I confident that it's going to go the whole way? I don't think anybody could even remotely look anybody in the eye and say that they are. But do you have to plan like it is? Absolutely. Absolutely. So you don't walk into any given day, Mark, and say, well, you know, we might only get to play X amount of games, or we might get to do this. You try to follow what you see in the news. You try to follow what the numbers are. I hear again already this week, the guidelines have changed. Now it's the 15 minutes cumulative rather than just the 15 minutes in one situation. We knew that was coming. We had a meeting yesterday. We put together another sheet. Okay, how do we really take the next step in monitoring that in practice? 2 weeks ago, rather than, and in answer to your question like this, 2 weeks ago, rather than just have coaches spread people out, we put X's 6 feet apart all along the baseline and sidelines, all along the court. Because now, rather than having coaches, okay, move over here, move over there. No, just get to an X. Just get to an X. And that's how we have to do it. So you're making your adjustments constantly. And if we miss games, if we have people missing games, if we get shut down for a period of time, we're going to have to make that adjustment too. And I think the whole key is it starts with me as a leader of the team, that if I show any frustration or panic, then why should I be upset if anybody else does? Because they're already feeling the frustration of not knowing what's coming. They're already nervous. I see it in my own children, right? Because we're all in this world where we're doing our best to control it, but there's a lot of times we can't control it. And again, I got a dose of this when Tom Izzo got COVID, because I know how diligent he is. You know, I know how anal he is in the sense of, okay, this is what we're going to do and we're not deviating from it. And for him to have no true idea how he got it, and for me to believe it and listen to him describe it, that's just another dose. Like, it's uncontrollable, and we just got to do everything we can possibly do to control it. And then if it happens again, we just deal with it, and we don't let anybody panic.
Thank you.
So you're welcome. I wish I had a better answer, but I mean, there's just no way to know, you know. And until they say we're not playing, until they say we're not playing next Wednesday, everything's geared towards that. And then we just, but I do think it's given you some really good teaching and coaching moments in your practice, because these guys don't know, are we going to play 3 in a row at some point in time? Are we going to go 2 weeks without a game? Nobody knows, right? So you can't have any bad days in practice because you're building for something that you don't know what's coming. And so we've got to have everything we can possibly have covered. And we can't look back and say, well, that didn't work out for us, but we really wasted that day and this day. So I think it's given us even more urgency in our coaching to make sure that the days go really well when we're together.
Thanks, Tom.
You're welcome.
We'll go back to Minneapolis where Chris Hine with the Star Tribune and I believe Jace Frederick from the Pioneer Press has another question.
Okay.
Hi, Tom. I'm wondering what was maybe the biggest growth you saw in Anthony from the time you started recruiting him to now, whether it be on the court or off the court?
Well, that's a good question. He was here for one of our first official practices. He'd come to town to go to the dentist, and he came to practice. And it was just awesome, right? Like I was down there emotional when he walked in because I hadn't seen him, and we'd FaceTimed and talked, but we hadn't been present with one another. And he came and he watched the practice, and I just kept looking over. He was so dialed in. Now he got his Raising Cane's fried chicken delivered, so he could sit there with his chicken and his French fries. And he's a French fry nut. That's going to have to change a little bit, but he's sitting there and eating, but he's so dialed into practice, right? And I'm talking to him through practice. Well, then I had him when we started to scrimmage get up with the coaches, and he was into it, right? Like he was into it. He was participating. And then the thing, Chris, that I thought was so cool, afterwards, practice ends, okay? He goes out there and he rebounds for his teammates, his ex-teammates for 45 minutes. He's not shooting. He's not in the shooting drills. He's just rebounding for him. He's just passing the ball. Practice is over, and they're just in there shooting, right? And he's talking to him, and he's laughing, and it was like he never left. But I saw, even in that short period of time, I saw a little more seriousness. I could sense the maturity. He was actually taller. He grew an inch while between signing here and where he's at now, so he's up to 6'5". But I think he continued to grow. He learned a lot. And I would say that the area of basketball where he probably grew the most was understanding what was going to be expected of him every day, how hard he had to go every day. And on the court, the actual basketball was moving without the basketball and being able to cut. And some of it was play driven. Some of it was random driven, though a lot of our cutting is random driven. But we knew when we got him that he was going to have to truly, truly embrace not having that ball in his hands all the time. And he's still going to have to do that. He's still much more comfortable with the ball, probing the defense, than he is cutting, receiving it off screens, being able to move. But that's going to be part of the growth process that Ryan and the staff will get through to him too. But he matured a lot. And then again, looking at him a few weeks ago, I felt really, really good about that. He's so easy to have a conversation with when there's a trust level and when he knows you, and hopefully you guys get to see that. It takes time. I mean, I've had a lot of guys going to the NBA. It takes time for them to, not that they don't trust you, but they don't know you, right? And it just takes time for that. But you'll see that as you get to know him, and you guys are all going to like him a lot.
He's talked a lot about how he thinks he can grow defensively, but even on the offensive end, people looked at his shooting percentages and had some concern with that. But looking at shots he took and the degree of difficulty on some of those threes, I almost thought the percentage was impressive. With maybe the types of looks he's going to get playing alongside other great offensive players, the spacing in the NBA, just how much do you think he can ascend even offensively at the next level?
Oh, he'll get a lot better offensively. He needs to trust the catch and shoot jump shot. Right? Young players, and I'm sure you guys see this with young players coming to the NBA, and we get it all the time in college. They predetermine their shots. And Anthony's one of the great predeterminers, right? Like, okay, I'm going to get this step back. I'm going to get this move. I'm going to get that move. And because the degree of difficulty doesn't matter to them. They believe they can make it, right? And so many times coming up the ladder, if they didn't make it, they still got to shoot it because they weren't always responsible and accountable to winning. And as you go up the ladder, that changes, right? That changes. But I think for him, the simplicity of it, the catch and shoot part of it, the moving without the ball. They've been able to screen, step back, catch it, rip it, go, catch it, shoot it. He can be very good in the post. There's so many different things that you can do with him because of athleticism and his size. And then as he gets into an environment where there's better, we had good spacing, but the spacing dissipated because we weren't shooting the three as well. We missed open threes, as did he. He missed some open threes too, but we missed open threes. So all of a sudden, now the defense is playing risk reward, and the lane closes up a little bit more. And there were times that he got back cuts or times we got baskets because he would just flat out be denied, which is probably not going to happen as much in the NBA. And he's not going to be denied into a no catch situation. So I think his offensive game can grow a lot. I think the passing will come out. We didn't bring the ball screen to him. There's a lot for him to learn with the ball screen. So understand this, like we didn't bring that second defender up a lot because they were already in the paint. So we didn't want to bring the second offensive man up there a lot because he had the strength, speed, quickness to beat people, right? To beat his own matchup, right? To get in a downhill drive and not have to navigate that second defender all the time that could create if they were going to clog the lane up. So we do a lot of slip screens and downhill drives, pitches, things like that. So he'll get him even better education in the ball screen game from Ryan and the staff. I know that. But defensively, you're going to see a guy that when he's locked in with that body, it'll take a little bit of time, but there will become a time in the NBA where people will be thinking twice on if they can score against him. Because I saw it happen in college. He puts that nose in your chest. He gets down and he starts sliding those feet, and he uses that wingspan, and you can't get through his chest, right? You can't get through it because he's strong, he's quick. He's got incredible balance moving his feet. And I think that's what's going to help him be an NBA defender very early on.
We'll next go to Dane Moore with SB Nation, Minnesota, followed by Jacob Roth with Channel 46 in Atlanta.
Hey, Tom, my question is actually similar to Jace's, just kind of, I think that the narrative that's going to surround here a little bit is on his 3-point shooting numbers because, for one reason or the other, that's what we do. So you brought up the catch and shoot element of the game as maybe a reason why that number could jump at the next level too. Also, he shot more threes, right, than anybody else in the country, volume-wise. I guess I'm kind of wondering how you see those two things merging at the next level and where you ultimately kind of see him winding up as a 3-point shooter in,
I didn't know about the number of threes volume-wise. I know with us he did. And he made 77, 78, 79, whatever it was. We needed it, though. We needed that on this team. My teams at Indiana, over the 9 years we were there, we led the power conferences, the Power 5, and 3-point percentage at like 38.6, 38.4. And we haven't had that here yet. We haven't had that 3-point shooting. My first year we shot 32. Last year we shot 30 and 28 in the league. And so open shots create so many gaps. That was the biggest thing with his shooting is getting his catch right, stepping in and really being an aggressive on his catch. Stepping into it 1-2, and he's made tremendous strides in this with his ability to extend that left foot, and then staying in his shot, which is basically holding his follow through. So many young kids automatically fade. I remember when D'Angelo was young. D'Angelo faded a lot when he didn't have to fade because they shoot their step back or they shoot those shots and they're not on balance. Well, look how much better D'Angelo is now with his balance. If you went back and reviewed. And not just because he's a Timberwolves, but again, because he is, because you see him every day. If you went back and reviewed his shooting, okay, and he's still got a ways to go, but if you reviewed his shooting early to where it is now, they're so much better because of his balance, because of his follow through. Well, Anthony will be the same way. He just, when I use the word trust, it's more take, right? Like, don't just put the ball on the ground. I've got a 23-year-old, fifth-year senior right now that we had this conversation last night when we scrimmaged. He wants to put it on the floor every time he catches it. And the other thing that we did with Anthony, there were two things that I think will serve him well. We've had the NBA line down permanently in our practices since I was at Marquette. And then last year, we put the 4-point line down. And I got the idea from Brett Brown, and I'm sure others are doing it. but I got the idea from Brett Brown, and we made our 4-point line 33 feet. So when you watch Anthony, he's really, really comfortable being a long way from the bucket in a downhill way. Well, at the same time, that's going to help his range with shooting the three. But the catch and shoot and him trusting and taking that catch and shoot rather than settling for step backs, which when you attack your defender, get him back on his heels, which he's got the strength and mobility to do, and then go up into your step back or your pull back and go straight up, that's a good shot. When you've predetermined your step back and you want to fade away, it's a bad shot. And he's got to continue to grow through that. But the catch and shoot in that offense and the way Ryan plays, I'd be surprised if that didn't make a jump throughout the season as soon as he understands the speed of the game. Make sense?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Very helpful.
You're welcome.
Hey, Coach, I just wanted to ask about Rayshawn Hammond. You know, obviously going undrafted, but according to his agent, he's going to sign with the Pacers. Have you had any conversations with him since the draft ended? And then also, what do you think about him maybe spending some time around Victor Oladipo?
Well, I had conversations with the Pacers, which was probably more important. I'll talk to Ray today, but it was much more important to talk to the Pacers. And I like that situation for him. To my knowledge, they're not going to bring many rookies to camp. And this gives him a real chance. And Jawan Morgan, I believe last year I had at Indiana, took an Exhibit 10. I think it was an Exhibit 10 with Utah, I think, before it turned into a 3-year. So, you know, really at the end of the day, and I think Ray had good interviews, and I think Ray felt good about it. He was here a couple of weeks ago. But all you need is to get in that door. And the fact that the Pacers only had the 1 second-round pick, and he's not Rayshawn's position, and that they see a future for him, I think is really, really important. I've had a couple guys in the past, one in particular, I won't name him, but didn't get drafted, should have signed with the Pacers, all right, because of their development system, because of the way it was, he didn't do it. And it's not just because I was at Indiana all those years. I have respect for that organization. And in answer to your question with Victor, if he can be around Victor in training camp, because Victor's like Dwayne. If you're connected to me and to the family, then you're a part of it. And I think he will help him. And I will ask Victor to do that. No question about it. And the bottom line is, though, they've got a plan for him. And from what I heard this morning, and to me, that's the most important thing. There's a good path. Whether it's the NBA, whether it's the G League, those two facilities are really close to one another. They've done a really, really good job with that. And he's going to have an opportunity. And that's a program that has done a lot with utilizing their two ways or utilizing the G League or whatever it is. So I feel that was a really, really good place for him.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Have time for probably one last question from Tori Heck.
Hey, Coach. I watched you and Anthony together, obviously, all of last year, and I think anyone can tell from how you talk about him, the relationship that y'all share. How do you let go of someone that you just made such a close bond with as a player and a coach in just 1 year, and how do you maintain a relationship with him as he moves to the NBA?
Well, you know, when you get them, that if you're doing it right, the relationship's going to last a lot longer than the time they're there, whether they're there 4 years, 5 years, or 1 year. And you just mature into that, right? And as a coach, and it's less emotional when they leave, but it remains an emotion-filled relationship because to me, and I've been like this with all of them, right? Like I'm not their present day coach, but I'm always going to be their coach because I'm always going to tell them the truth. I'm always going to try to help them make them better. And most importantly, when they leave, when it comes to the basketball, it's not, well, you should be doing this or he should be doing that. It's not that. It's the reminders, right? It's the reminders of what they are, what they do, what they need to do. And I was doing that with him last night. So to me, what happens is when you're not afraid to tell them the truth and you're not afraid to help make them better on the court or what they're dealing with in their life. And whether they make the NBA or whether they scored 1 point a game, right? If that relationship is real, it's going to keep going on. And it picks up right where it left off. But you never, as a coach, are afraid to say something that is going to make them better. Because if you weren't afraid to tick them off and make them better when you coached them, why would you now be afraid to do that when they leave, right? And that's exactly how it is with me, because that the relationships grow because you do tell them the truth. The relationships grow because you are demanding of them. The relationships grow because you do have hard conversations and you do enjoy successes and go through things together. And that's what it'll continue to be. So I'm extremely proud of him. And the emotional part becomes about, okay, I know what he's like. I know what his heart is like. I know what his spirit's like. And I got a pretty good idea of what he's capable of when those things get brought out. So to me, that's the bottom line. How can I help make sure that those things get brought out? And that's what I want to do for the Timberwolves. That's what I want to do for the Pacers and all these other guys that I've coached.
Thanks, Coach.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate your time. A couple house cleaning items, and it was all this information was at the bottom of the media advisory. But of course, Anthony, as Coach mentioned, was the highest pick ever in Georgia basketball history. He's our 39th all-time NBA draft pick and the 8th first-round selection. Previous high pick was number 3 by Dominique Wilkins in 1982. Dominique was chosen by Utah before he was traded to the Atlanta Hawks. It's Georgia's first-round pick since Kentavious Caldwell-Pope in 2013. Kentavious obviously just won an NBA title with the LA Lakers as a starter, averaged double digits in the NBA Finals. Anthony is the 6th SEC player to be chosen number 1 and the 5th since 2010. Coach Crean is now one of only 2 coaches to have top 5 NBA draft picks at 3 schools. Of course, Dwayne Wade at Marquette was number 5 in 2003. Victor Oladipo was number 2 at Indiana in 2013, and Anthony this year. And also of interest, Georgia had top 10 picks in both the NFL and Major League Baseball drafts as well. Offensive tackle Andrew Thomas to the New York Giants at number 4 overall. Pitcher Emerson Hancock, number 6 overall to the Seattle Mariners. It's only the 6th time ever that a school has had top 10 picks in the NBA, NFL, and MLB drafts in the same year. And one more note, Anthony mentioned last night Donnell Gresham and talking to him. Donnell was a grad transfer on our team last year, who is from St. Paul and played at Cretan-Durham Hall High School. If anybody in Minnesota wants to reach out to Donnell, I'll be more than happy to help facilitate that as well. He and I have traded texts this morning, so he expects he may get some calls on that. So
Donnell is a great kid. I would add that.
What's that, Coach?
Donnell is a great kid. Donnell is a great young man. I'm sorry, but he's a great young man. And they room together at times. Mike, did you ever see when was the last time that there were back-to-back picks at Georgia?
Yes, I did. And I will send that to everyone.
Send it to me because I need it for recruiting. Right?
Yes,
I'm saying that because I need this recruiting intel, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So definitely. So thanks, Coach. I'll make sure everybody else.
Thank you.
Well,
everyone. Thank you for participating in this. I appreciate that you got on, and we're looking forward to watching the progress of him there. And you're going to enjoy it. It's going to take a little time, but you're going to enjoy it. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Tom. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
thank you, Mark. Good
Thanks,
to see
Mike.
y'all. See y'all Saturday.